What's up, rock stars? It's your buddy DA with the GA. Welcome to another episode of Gear Alchemy. Today, we're going to be doing something a little special. I don't know why I keep opening up with that. I ain't really thought about what I'm going to say as far as that in that regard. Um, so I've spoken and made a couple of videos about the Rev Generator 120. Absolutely love this amp. This is my new favorite amp. They're not paying me to say that, by the way. They're more than welcome to, but they don't. I don't get sponsorship from anyone. This is a brand new channel. I think I've had like 72 views in total over all my videos. So yeah, they're not going to pay me money. So literally, my opinion is my own. I know a lot of other creators say that, the bigger creators. Maybe to some degree it is, but at the end of the day, there is still kind of a hustle there. So they do ultimately kind of get paid to say it. Anywho, what I want to do today is compare the RV30, which is Rev's version of the vintage 30, which we'll talk about how they got there in a minute, and the WGS veteran 30. And there's a reason I want to compare those two. So let's start at the beginning. Because I love the Rev Generator so much, I want to get a 4x12 to match. That way I've got a nice, half stack, because that's what we're all pining for, right? Nice half stack. I got the Marshall half stack already. So, and I am looking, eventually I will probably come across affordable to me anyway, 4x12 or 2x12 of the diesel cabs. That way I can get a half stack of that going. And then I bought a PRS so that I could half stack the MT15, and then lo and behold, my MT15, shed its first output transformer. And so I just got it back from PRS. It was under warranty. And so now I'm contemplating if I want to keep that amp. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with this after that. I'll probably still keep it. I do love the Creamback 75s that are in here. But anyway, I digress. So the Rev speakers. So Rev, for the longest time, has been using two speakers that are Celestions, either the Vintage 30, which everybody used, right, or the Creamback 75s. They use the Creamback in like their Dynamis series, and then they've been using the Vintage 30 in all the Generator series, right? So if you bought a cab, that's generally speaking, that's what it had in it. A few years ago, they started using some of the WGS line, which is warehouse guitar speakers made in the United States. They're in Kentucky, Paducah, Kentucky. Which there's a great sandwich place out there if you guys ever make it down there. I can't think of the name of it, but oh my God. Oof, that's an amazing sandwich. Anyway, I'll put it in the comments if anyone's curious. But more than likely, don't see this video anyway, so it doesn't matter. So Rev got with, because they have been using WGS for a little while now, they got with WGS and were like, hey, we kind of like to make our own custom voiced speakers for our line of amps. So they made two speakers. They made the RV30, which is their take on a vintage 30, and they made the RV90, which is their take on the greenback. Or sorry, creamback. The one that looks cream, not the one that looks green. So those speakers are, because they're still really new, they're fairly hard to get your hands on unless you buy a cab that already has it in it. I was lucky enough that someone was selling their RV30 on Reverb for like $100, and so yoink, I grabbed it. I already had a veteran 30. I have seen speaker comparisons. There's two actually that I saw. There's two videos on the YouTubes comparing the vintage 30 to the Rev 30. There is none comparing any of the WGS to the Rev 30. I reached out to WGS because they're, of course, the manufacturer of this speaker, and was like, hey, what is the difference between the Rev version and you guys' version, and the Veteran 30 or the Retro 30? And they came back with like the most lawyer answer ever. Now, let me be clear. I am not disparaging WGS as I make this video. I'm throwing it in here because I thought it was funny, not because, it upset me or because I don't understand why they said it the way they did or anything like that. But their response was, and I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, but it was something along the lines of, due to our newfound partnership with Rev, we kindly respect that you get a hold of them with any questions concerning this product. And the reason I think that's funny is because if so I drive a pickup, right? If I want to know what kind of pistons were used in the manufacturing process of the engine that is in my truck, I'm not going to go to the Ram dealership and ask that question because chances are there is no one there, to include even probably the mechanics working in the back, that has any clue what the answer to that question is. Not saying they can't look it up for me, but they're probably not going to know because they didn't make it. A plant made it, and then they bought it from Stellantis because I drive a Ram. So they bought it from Stellantis, and then they are selling the product. They're just the middleman basically to you. And essentially, in this case, that's what REV is. I'm sure REV did not say, hey, we want precisely a 40-ounce magnet of this type of material with this many hertz and this range. I mean, they maybe they did, but I mean, I'd be very surprised if they went that kind of in depth. So more than likely, it was just, and this is the way they kind of tell the story. The guys at Rev tell the story because they have videos on talking about them creating these speakers. The way they kind of went about it was um, they played a vintage 30 and a creamback individually, and I think they included some WGS stuff there too. And then they sent all the speakers down to WGS with their notes on, hey, this is what we kind of think about these individual speakers, and this is what we kind of would like to see in our custom voice. And so the speakers were born from doing that, right? So so I reached out to WGS first to be like, hey, you know, what exactly are these differences? And not to mention, Rev isn't going to know what the difference is between the RV30 and a Retro 30 or Veteran 30 because they are not affiliated with that at all. So that's why I went to WGS. So anyway, I got my lawyer answer. So I went to Rev, which I wanted to go to them anyway to ask a few questions. And they came back with just, hey, we wanted to create a speaker that didn't have the mid-range spike. And that's really all I got, which is kind of what I expected from the people who aren't manufacturing it. And to be completely fair to Rev, if I were to ask them, you know, what kind of capacitors they use in this amp, they would be able to tell me because they actually make that. And so that's where the difference kind of lies. So the two speakers, and I do to fully illustrate that Rev does not pay me, I do have a hit, a shot across the bow at Rev on these speakers. These speakers are $179. Okay. You are making two speakers that are custom voiced to be similar to two name brand speakers that are cheaper than your speaker. I would argue that is a problem. So, you know, if you guys priced your speaker at like $130 or something like that, or 140, which is what WGS does. And to be clear, they claim, you know, our Veteran 30 is far superior to a vintage 30, and they still price it at a cheaper price point. Eminence kind of the same thing, and Eminence has been around longer than anyone other than Celestion, maybe even longer than Celestion. I don't know. But they've been in the game for a really long time, and even their speakers are typically cheaper than Celestion speakers. Now, I don't know if that's the same for our brothers and sisters across the pond. Maybe they get Celestion for cheaper and the Eminence is more expensive. I would think that was how it would work due to import and export rules and stuff. But I don't know. In any case, because I know I have heard that is the case for, like, let's say a Marshall amp. They can get a Marshall amp for far cheaper than we can, but then a Fender costs them more than it does us in the US. That's why I think that. Anyway, so yeah, on to, oh, wait, one more thing. So when I got a hold of Rev and asked the question, I also asked at the same time, would you guys be willing to sell me the custom Tolex cab unloaded? And the answer is yes. Little side street here. They only offer 8 ohm on the website. I also asked at the same time, could I get it wired in 16 ohm instead, with 16 ohm speakers instead of 8 ohm speakers? And the answer is yes there too. So if you do look at the website and you're like, man, I really don't want an 8 ohm cab because all my cabs are 16 ohm, which is in my case, they will do that for you. Just FYI. So the question of the unloaded is yes. and I only asked about the 4x12. I can't speak to the 2x12 or the 1x12, but the 4x12 fully loaded with either 4 RV30s, 4 RV90s, or an X pattern of 30s and 90s, you were looking at $14.99, even with custom Tolex options. Unloaded, you were looking at $1,099. So for $400, you get 4 speakers, which obviously is far cheaper than $179 each that I mentioned earlier. Not to mention the answer to my question, which was really, is it worth getting it unloaded? I guess if you already have 4 speakers that you want to throw in there, like this is the perfect speaker that you want to use with your whatever amp, your Rev or whatever have you, and you have them already sitting here, just collecting dust, like in a box or something, then that might be a worthy endeavor. If you don't, I think you would be very hard pressed to find 4 speakers for $100 each. Celestion for certain. Even may as well just go ahead and get the Rev speakers. That's my thoughts on it. Unless, like I said, you already have 4 speakers laying around, or even just 2, and you got to buy 2, because then that still saves you a couple $100. In my case, even though I do have, the reason I said that is I have 2 speakers I'm looking at right now, but I will probably still go ahead and just get it with all 4 when I do pull the trigger on this. Anyway, so that's, I think, all I have to say about the talking aspect of it. So I have the 2 speakers I'm going to do is the WGS Veteran 30 8 ohm versus the Rev RV30 8 ohm. Luckily, they're both 8 ohms, so we don't have any issues there. The cab I will be using is my divided by 13 BTR23 that I'm sitting on. I put the speaker in there, and then we just don't plug it into the amp. So instead, I run the Rev into an attenuator and then directly in. The attenuator is off. So this divided by 13 is an open back, so you do have to take that into consideration. The microphone used is the Sennheiser E609, straight into my Fender Tone Master Pro, used as an audio interface only. So it's just running straight into the Tube Studio preamp. The EQ was set flat, but the gain was actually the gain was at 80%. Gain was at 80%. And then the 2 guitars used, Kirk here for the blue channel, the purple channel, and the red channel. This, if you guys don't remember this, we did a pickup swap on this one right before I did a setup. This is a ESP LTD H1000 Deluxe. I call it Kirk. There's the Seymour Duncan Black into Black Winter set in it, which is just a standard Black Winter set, but it's been completely murdered out. It's matte black instead of gloss. It's got black pole pieces instead of your typical silver or chrome, whatever color you want to call it. And then the Seymour Duncan on the sides of it is blacked out as well instead of being white. So I didn't think this sounded. It was quite boomy for the green channel with both of these speakers. It sounded better, I think, with the RV30, but I didn't record that. It just notes that I'm passing on, and you'll see why once you hear the sound samples. So yeah, that was used for 3 out of the 4 channels. You guys met beside me when we did a setup, but this is a Paul Reed Smith McCarty 25th anniversary. It's got the 1st generation, I think, maybe 2nd, narrow fields in it. Definitely not 3rd. This was used on the green channel for both speakers. So Kirk, channels 1, 3, and 4, both speakers. This channel 2, both speakers. All right, and with that, let's get into some tones. See you guys at the end for some closeout, final thoughts. Well, I hope you guys got as much out of this as I did. Um, I found that the REV30 was quite a bit brighter. And that's like what I was saying initially when I went over the guitars. I said that the Black Winters were quite a bit dark and boomy for the green channel. But whenever I plugged into, and that was on the Veteran 30, but as soon as I plugged the REV30 in, I actually thought it sounded really good because the REV30 is quite a bit brighter, I think. Still has a pretty tight bass. And I recorded the audio stuff yesterday, and today I've actually been messing around between the RV30 and my Marshall cab with the vintage 30s, the Marshall labeled vintage 30s. I know I've heard that they are a little different than the regular Celestion vintage 30. They are from the 90s, so that plays a factor too. If you're not aware, if you're a newbie to this, to the whole speaker thing, you could get a vintage 30 from every decade, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, 2000 teens, 2025, 2026, and all of them will sound different. Same old everything. Like even if you haven't been playing them this whole time, let's say you found them in a box, new old stock kind of thing, and you plugged them into, the same cab and ran through the sounds, they would all sound different out of the box. That's how it works. Let alone years of breaking in, however they've been played, have they been in someone's bedroom, have they been on tour, doesn't matter. I mean, all that plays a factor. Have they been around smoke? Because I mean, they're paper cones after all. Um, so yeah, how have they been utilized this whole time? And so that obviously plays a big factor in how they sound as well. Anywho, so I put my Marshall cab into stereo mode. It only ran into one side, so essentially I'm only using two of the 12 speakers. Now you do have to keep in mind that also means that those speakers are not working as efficiently as they should because they have to fill the air of the volume of the entire cab instead of just filling what a 2x12 would be. A better option would have been to run two of these in my EVH cab, or even actually the best option would be to take one out, put it in here, and then test it that way. But I didn't want to do all that. So, not to mention, like I said, there's already two videos comparing the vintage 30 to the Rev 30. So this was more just for my take. I was like, I'm curious to how, in the room, how would I feel? And I feel they're actually very, very close, which I haven't got out of either of the two videos that I've seen. Jared from Tone Wars did one, and I forgot who the other one was. In those, they do sound. You can hear the similarity, but they do sound still quite a bit different. In the room, I felt like they were a lot closer. I'm not saying they're the same. There are differences there, but it's much more subtle, I think, in person. Now, the last thing, what's odd is, and that's what kind of got me down this road of trying the vintage 30, was I thought that, when I first plugged in the Rev 30 and I'm playing through it, I was like, wow, this actually sounds a lot like the comparison I've heard between the Veteran 30 and the Retro 30. The Retro 30 is quite a bit brighter than the Veteran 30, and I think a bit smoother. Doesn't have as much like the deeper cut or deeper, bottom low end. And so it's quite a bit brighter in that regard, but then it's also kind of smooth on top compared to a vintage 30 that has that little bit of spike there, right? And that's kind of what I heard. And that's why I was like, I wonder what it'll sound like if I play a vintage 30, in the room. Anyway, but that's when it also hit me that, the Veteran 30 is a 60-watt speaker. The Retro 30 is a 75-watt speaker. The Rev 30 is a 75-watt speaker. So apparently what I should have done was gotten a Retro 30, or actually best case scenario or best plan would have been to have both and then shoot out all three. So a Veteran 30, a Retro 30, and a Rev 30. Maybe in the future I might get a Retro 30. I doubt it, just because I didn't really have a reason to buy one of those, so I wasn't going to. I liked the video clips I heard comparing the two. I liked the Veteran 30 better, which is why I bought it. Plus, I got a sick deal on it. But if I come across a deal like that on the Retro 30, I'll probably buy it. But otherwise, I probably won't. But anyway, so yeah, let me know what you guys think. Feel free to throw your input in there. I apologize. The recording is not, I'm still working on that. It's not quite as good as I want it to be. I don't know what I'm doing wrong or if I need to do something different or what. I actually got someone, a buddy of mine that went to school for this stuff. I don't know why I didn't call him first. I just thought about it yesterday. Um, but I'm gonna have him come over and like maybe kind of show me some things. Maybe there's something, I need to click on or whatever. Because the only other option is that the Tone Master Pro is not great for being an audio interface, and I actually need to pay the money and get a Scarlett, um, which I really don't want to do. But if that's the best option for me, then that's the best option for me. So yeah, if you guys got any input on that, like if you've tried the Tone Master Pro as an interface and you're like, yeah, trust me, go this direction, let me know. Anywho, hope you guys liked the video. And if there's anything particular you want to see or hear or whatever, let me know. If I haven't, I'll be happy to put up a video on it. Peace out.